An average American retires at the age of 62 years old, which actually coincides with the start of Social Security. Now, does anybody know the average age that a doctor retires? 69 years old. That is crazy when you think about it. So how does that average American who makes 3 to 5 times less retire 5 to 7 years earlier? See, the goal is not to necessarily be richer than everybody you know. The goal is for you to save enough and invest enough so you can live the life that you want to live free of any outside influences. And then once you get to that point, it's important that you start changing the way you're thinking about the investment cycle.
Welcome back to Generational Dr. Wealth, a personal finance show for doctors. This podcast is for educational entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Always consult your own professionals.
Hello. Welcome to Generational Dr. Wealth. This is a personal finance show for you out there, the doctors, the ones putting in the long hours, wearing the right coats, regardless of the situation, and helping your community in the greater area. This show is for you. It's to help you understand what exactly is personal finances. How exactly do I invest? How exactly do I save? What exactly insurance products do I need? All these questions are going to be answered this season. This season is focused on one main thing, and that one main question is, what do you do with your next dollar? So let me ask you this. Why is personal finances important to doctors? Because for a lot of us, believe it or not, we earn 3 to 5 times more than the average American. So we earn so much more. Why is it even important for us to take personal finances to that next level? And this is exactly why. Does anybody out there know the average age that an American retires? An average American retires at the age of 62 years old, which actually coincides with the start of Social Security. Now, does anybody know the average age that a doctor retires? 69 years old. That is crazy when you think about it. So how does that average American who makes 3 to 5 times less retire 5 to 7 years earlier? And that's when it clicked. We make a great income, but we have a hard time transferring that income into wealth. And that's a transition we have to make to eventually retire with dignity. What's happening is doctors are retiring later and later. And why is that? Because student loans are skyrocketing. And if our level of preparedness financially does not match the speed in which our expenses are increasing, I'm just sorry to say we're going to be in a very, very tough spot. So that's why I'm excited about this 9-step, 3-level plan. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to introduce the doctor's blueprint to financial freedom. I'm going to go through each and every step, and we're going to go through it and as we get through this entire season so we can understand what exactly we're working with. See, now each step is going to be focused on at least 1 to 2 episodes. The first episode is going to break down the step, and then the second episode is going to actually answer questions that we receive from doctors to be able to help you implement this and see what it looks like in real life. A little bit of background about myself. I got my master's of business administration from East Carolina University with a focus in marketing, accounting, and finance. Now, to me personally, we learned a lot about corporate finance and finance structures and taxes and all the above. But when I got into actual dental school and I was learning how dental practices are being ran, it had nothing to do with this. So that's when I realized it doesn't matter if I go to dental school, it doesn't matter if I go get a master's in business. Unless you take a personalized approach to understanding your personal finances, that information just won't get there. So you have to really get interested in it. So let's not waste any more time. Step number 1, ensure your foundation. See, this one is just so important. Why? Because you can do every other step correctly. We can invest, we can have homes, we can do everything. But what happens if we don't have the proper malpractice insurance? As I like to call it, professional liability insurance. What happens? That means you're one lawsuit away from losing everything that you ever worked hard for. Then another piece of insurance that we got to really take seriously is what I like to call income protection. Some people call disability insurance. What happens if before you're able to build up the funds you need, something happens to your health or to the health of a loved one who is also a white coat? It puts you in a very precarious situation, especially when you're still on the hook for $300,000, $400,000 of student debt. Or on top of that, $1 million practice note. Or on top of that, another $500,000 to $1 million for a home. See, that's why it's before we get into investing, before we get into saving, before we get into all of that, the first and most important step in this process is ensure your foundation. This is so key. We got to make sure we have all the proper insurances lined up to make sure you're protected for the long run. So I'm going to list a few of them out. As I've already said, income protection. As I've already said, professional liability insurance. And then one of them, the most and underlooked things is term life insurance. So for a lot of us out there, we've heard about a lot of different life insurance products, but I'm here to tell you, as you're starting out your journey, more than likely, you're going to be good with a term type policy. Again, we'll get into it as the episode goes on. Let's move on to step number 2. Step number 2 in the process is start your freedom fund. What exactly does that mean? See, freedom is not free. A lot of people had to die for our right to be able to sit in this safe country and be able to speak on a podcast and not have to worry about a bombshell going off in our front yard. That's because someone paid for that freedom that we get to enjoy. In the same way, when it comes to your ability to say no, that costs. And I really implore all of our white coats out there to save up that freedom fund. So if something at your job does not resonate with what you believe to be right or wrong, you can easily walk away and say, you know what? I don't vibe with this. This does not match the kind of care that I want to provide long term. Or let's say you just burnt out and say, you know what? I need to take a little bit of time off. This freedom fund is going to be so important. And I'm going to give you a little bit of teaser here. This freedom fund consumes 3 different steps out of the 9 steps. And it's on all 3 levels. So it's important for us to understand why the freedom fund matters so much. So when it comes to starting your freedom fund, our only goal is 1 month's worth of income. That's it. 1 month worth of income. If you can just live, for instance, if you just graduated, can you live like a dental student, a medical student, a pharmacy student for just 1 more month? And in that way, you can save the entire check and put that into your freedom fund. Get that started, get that funded. Now, we're going to move on to step number 3. Step number 3 is cut the wealth killers. I'm going to read it out to you verbatim. Pay off your high interest debt, 8% or higher. See, now this is so important. Before we even get into investing, we have to make sure that we have a strong financial foundation. Now, imagine if we're investing in stocks and we're pumping so much into it, but we have a credit card bill behind the scenes that's taking up 20% of interest that is charging us. Now, what we're doing is we're investing with one hand and we have a hole in that bucket that is flowing out quicker than the investments can fill up. And for a lot of us out there, that's what we're doing. We're investing, we're saving, we're doing all the right things, but in the wrong order. Before we make sure we have the proper insurance in place, as we just talked about. Before we at least have a freedom fund in place with 1 month's worth of income. But we want to make sure after we do those things, we have to attack the high interest debt. Because when something is more than 8% and the stock market returns inflation adjusted returns of 7% annually over the last 30, 40, 50 years, you're technically losing money by investing before you taking and addressing these high interest debt. Now, I'm not a debt crusader that says get rid of all debt as soon as possible. See, we're going to get into it later on because a lot of people ask us questions, should I attack my student debts aggressively? Now, I'm one to say put it in buckets. Not all debt's going to be at the same interest, but I do want you to start attacking that 8%, that credit card debt, that high automotive debt, whatever it is, start attacking that first. That leads us to step number 4. Step number 4 says build your freedom fund. See, step number 2 says start your freedom fund. Now we're going to go into building your freedom fund. What exactly does that look like? Now we're going to go from 1 month's of income. We want to continue to build it up to the point of 3 to 6 months of income. Now, why is this important? Because when you have 3 to 6 months of income, technically, if your expenses are in line, you really have about twice as much time as that as far as your expenses are concerned. Meaning, for instance, let's put it into numbers. Let's say you make $10,000 a month and your expenses are $5,000 a month. By saving that 1 month of income, you technically have 2 months worth of expenses. But once we start building our freedom fund and we get to 3 to 6 months of income, then you technically have about 6 to 12 months worth of expenses. And this is going to be so key because as you continue to go through your career, one thing that truly leads to burnout is feeling like either 1, you're not making progress, or number 2, you don't have options. Now, when you have a nice, fully funded freedom fund, or excuse me, you're just building it up at this point, you have options. You can say no. You can say, you know what, I want to cut back from 4 days or 5 days a week down to 3 days a week. You know what, maybe I want to stay home with my kid. We just had a young son ourselves. Maybe mom wants to take a step away, dad wants to take a step away for 3 months and come back after. See, this freedom fund does exactly what it says. It provides you freedom, but it's not free. You have to fund it to be able to purchase freedom a little bit later. That leads us to step number 5. And that is invest, invest, invest. This is one of my favorite steps. I'll probably say my second most favorite step. This one's all about invest in exactly in this order. Really hear me out. I want you to invest in this order. I want you to invest into your employer match, your Roth account, your IRA, your 401k. What exactly does that mean? First, you want to make sure you get your employer match. So if your employer is paying you, or your employer will match 5% of whatever you put in, go ahead and match that 5%. That's a guaranteed 50 if they match half, or 100% rate of return. Meaning if I put in, let's say 5,000, they're going to put in 5,000. That's an automatic 5,000. I'm going to get that first. From there, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to our Roth IRA. And this is so important because when you start reaching the levels of retirement, these funds that you put in are tax-free. So once you take the money out, you're not paying any tax on it because you already paid taxes on it on the way in. So everybody gets a paycheck out there, right? The money that actually hits your bank account is available to put into your Roth IRA. Now, you might need to do a backdoor Roth because you're a higher earner, but there's ways around that. And all these are completely legal. And I advise everybody out there, talk to your advisor and start strategizing to figure out how can you invest properly. Then from there, I want you to start hitting your 401k, okay? I want to make sure you're maxing out your employer-sponsored 401k every single year. Because guess what? If you get your match, if you put into your Roth IRA via backdoor, and you max out your employer-sponsored 401k, that means you're saving $30,000 to $40,000 a year. See, that's a nice chunk of change because now when you start hitting the retirement ages, you have different buckets of money that you can pull from. And that's why I love invest, invest, invest. When you get this one right, it really sets you up for success. Now let's recap. When you talk about invest, 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 when you get your next dollar, a lump sum payment or whatever it is like this is the order you want to be putting money into your accounts. You want to be number one, you want to max out your employer max. Again, if your employer gives you 3% or 5% of your income and they'll match that, make sure you're putting in enough to get that full match. That is free money. You cannot get a better return in the market than absolutely free money. That's key. Number two, you want to be putting into your HSA. This one is your health savings account. If you have a high deductible health plan, you qualify for an HSA more than likely. Again, check what you're carrying. This one's important because this is what we call a triple tax advantage account, meaning when you put money in, you get a tax deduction. As it grows tax-free. And when you take it out for health-related expenses, it's also tax-free. I mean, there's no other account available to us that does better good than that. And I like to call it a sneaky quadruple tax advantage account because you also get a state level tax exemption for the funds that you put in. Outside of 2 states at the time of this recording, and that's California and New Jersey. For some reason, they don't give you a tax deduction for that. But for the states that I'm in, and more than likely the states that you're in, you also get a state level tax deduction. So that's 4 type of tax deductions from one type of account. And that's why that's number 2. And that's one of the main ones that just sneaky and people just don't know about or don't use it. And when you put those funds into that HSA, make sure you invest it. Only 16% of people who put funds into their HSA actually invest it. For some people, they put it in and use like a credit card. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to put the funds in and I want you to forget about them. I want you to invest in whatever you want to invest in, close your eyes and just let it grow as time goes. But I want you to keep your receipts from any health-related expenses so you can always pay yourself back in the future because there's no time deadline for how long it takes for you to reimburse yourself. If you have a knee replacement done, let's say at age 40, you can reimburse yourself at age 65 for that. Absolutely key. Next, we're just going to move into our Roth IRA. This one, y'all know Roth IRAs is one of my favorite accounts. This one is you put the money in now that you already paid taxes on, and it grows tax-free. I love this account, has no minimum required distributions. And for this particular account, when you're a higher income earner, you can't put it in directly. So I want you to research what a backdoor Roth is. On that episode, we're going to get into what a backdoor Roth is and how you can execute that efficiently to make sure it matches your particular situation. And last but not least, we have our 401k. I want to make sure you're investing into your employer-sponsored 401k to make sure you're filling up all of those taxable buckets to make sure that you're getting a lot of tax advantages. Now, if you're interested in retiring early, like my wife and myself, it's important for you to also get what we call a taxable brokerage account. This is an account that you can put unlimited funds in. There's no cap on how much you can put into it. On top of that, you can take it out anytime you want it. Now, I would say, I want you to have the mindset of putting money into your taxable brokerage account and have the understanding that I have to probably keep it in there for a year, because when you keep money in your taxable brokerage accounts that you've invested and you hold a stock for over a year, it unlocks different kind of possibilities. How you're taxed changes completely different. If you hold a stock for less than a year, you're taxed at normal income. And if you're a white coat, that's probably going to be at a high tax bracket. But if you hold it for over a year, you have now stepped into a whole different long-term taxable situation that makes it much more favorable to hold on to those stocks. Again, in that episode, we're going to go more deep into that. I'm so excited for Invest, but that leads us to step number 6.
Hello, I'm Jonathan with Team Financials, and here at Team Financials, we make filing simple, accurate, and stress-free. Tax season does not have to be stressful, and we are here to make it as simple and stress-free as possible for you. Whether you need help with your personal tax return or your business owner looking for expert tax preparation, our experienced team is here to guide you every step of the way. We don't just file your taxes. Our slogan here at Team Financials is we educate so you can elevate, because when you understand your finances, you make stronger, smarter moves for your future. If you mention Dr. Wealth with filing with us, you will receive $75 off your personal and business tax preparations. Ready to get started? Please reach out to us at 704-412-4242 or book directly on our website at teamfinancials.com. Take care. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
This one is create your sinking funds. So what's a sinking fund? A sinking fund is an account that you set up for expenses that you know are coming in the future. There's no avoiding. You know the car that you're driving now, you're probably not going to be driving in 10 years. So it's important for you to go ahead and start putting funds away now for that future purchase. If you have kids and you want them to go to college, then you know that expense is going to be coming one way or another. Now, you might not want to help them out with all their college funds, or maybe you do want to pay for all of their college. That's going to be an expense that you don't want to wake up and figure out, how do I pay for it? Instead, you can put a little bit away now into some tax advantage accounts and let it grow. And then the last kind of sinking fund that we like to talk about is your housing fund, your down payment for your house, okay? But first, let's rewind. Let's start with the college fund. I love this one because we have what we call a 529. This gives you the ability to be able to put funds into the account. That's going to be after tax money. You can put in, grandma can put in, anybody can put in, even for our son. I tell him, listen, don't buy him any gifts. I'll send you the QR code to his 529, and you're more than welcome to contribute to his 529 directly, because he's going to lose toys. He has too many toys. But when you put into his 529, you are literally investing into his future. This gives everybody in your community an opportunity to build towards a future college expense that we all know is coming. So now when everybody puts into that account after tax money, when it's inside it and you invest it, it grows tax free. Then when you take it out for school related or education related expenses, it's tax free. I love a 529, but we'll get more into it into that episode. Next, that leads us into a car fund. Now, again, we know we're not going to be driving the same car 10, 15 years from now. So you know a car expense is coming. The question is, are you going to be ready when it's time? So now, me, myself personally, when I graduated dental school a few years after, I bought a Honda Accord. Oh man, I love this Honda Accord, and guess what? It was a hybrid. 2019 Honda Accord hybrid. And when I was in dental school, I was driving a 2006 Toyota Tundra, and I knew this one's not going to last much longer. So instead of panicking, what I started was a car fund while I was still in school, and I could only afford a little bit at that time, but I started putting some away because I knew by the time it's time to buy a car, I want to be able to pay for at least most of it or all of it. And thank God, by the time it came, I was able to pay for the entire car cash. See, I want us to all get into the mindset of paying for depreciating assets in cash. Let's explain what that means. That means when you buy a car, you're already going to be paying 5, 10, I've seen up to 12, 13% on a car. That means you're paying interest on something that is going down in value. That's a bad proposition for building wealth, okay? For a lot of us, we kill a lot of our wealth when it comes to the car that we drive. I want you to really think about this. Put funds into an account when it comes to a car, so then when it's time to purchase the car, you can have realistic expectations. You'll know, according to my car fund, I can buy this kind of car. Because what happens is when we think about a month-to-month type situation, how much can I afford on a monthly basis, we often end up spending too much on a car. But when you know I can only afford what I have in my car fund, either you're going to wait a little bit longer and drive that car a little bit longer, or you're going to push a little bit harder to put funds inside of that car fund. We'll get more into it then. Last but not least, this leads us into our housing fund. So now as doctors and as I would say medical doctors, dentists, and I've seen some veterinarian type programs we have available to us called a doctor's loan. And there might be a few more out there, but those are the main three that I tend to see. For the doctor's loan, you get to purchase a house for as little as 3.5%. I've seen some even 0% down. See, now that's absolutely amazing, but with great power comes great responsibilities, because what happens is you might end up buying too much of a house that you don't necessarily need just because you don't have to worry about a down payment. I don't want us to be in that camp, okay? Buy what's adequate for this season of life and make sure that, number one, you also keep in mind that there are going to be closing costs and you have to furnish that house. So the bigger house you purchase, the more you have to furnish, all right? Now, that leads us to step number 7. I love this one. This is my favorite step of them all. I love invest, invest, invest. That's my second favorite. But my number one favorite is invest in impact. As a white coat out there, you have a unique gift and skill set that enables you to reach people that other people might not be able to reach. As a white coat, you automatically have a built-in level of trust with most people. And when you use that gift to impact the community that you're in, is an absolutely beautiful thing. And the reason I love this so much is because it doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars or if you're still a student in your program, you have the opportunity to make meaningful impact. See, when I was in dental school, there was a program called Give a Kids a Smile Day, where we went to local elementary schools and we were able to educate them on the importance of brushing. And more importantly, just allow them to be one-on-one with dentists and break down that fear factor so they can believe one day I can achieve and be in the same position. So now if you're a pharmacist, imagine if you go to an elementary school and you break down what do you do on a day-to-day basis and encourage students that maybe they want to become you one day. Or orthopedic surgeon, whatever it is like that. Understand, even you just being a resident or a student, you have the ability to reach individuals who are one day striving to become you and really be able to impact their lives in a very meaningful way. Now, when you're able to be more established in your career and you have more funds behind you, now you have the opportunity to now put your money where your mouth is, or put your money where your heart is, what I like to say. Because when you think about investing impact, this gives you the opportunity to invest your hard-earned resources into things that you are most passionate about. I absolutely love this step. And that leads us to step number 8. This is finalize your freedom fund. This is 1 year's worth of income. This is the big one. And the reason this is important because when you have 1 year of income saved up, for most people, you're going to have 2 years worth of expenses saved up because now you have options. This is so key because as healthcare professionals, there's a high level of burnout that is rampant within most healthcare careers. But when you have 1 year of income saved up and you know at any given moment, I can take a sabbatical from work, I can take a step back 6 months to a year, I'm good, no worries there. If I have a child and I want to take a little bit more time off, I can. If I want to go around on a Europe trip while I'm still young and fresh and I can still enjoy it, I can do those things. See, by saving 1 year of income, you give yourself the opportunity to say no. I like to say the ability to say no is very expensive. And you have to purchase it through monies that's saved up. If you say no and you don't have the resources in place, it could put you into a very tough position. And that's why when you start your job, one of the first things you want to do is start your freedom fund. Because as you continue to build it up over time, you are literally purchasing more opportunities to yourself. By the time you get to finalizing your freedom fund, you have the ability to say no. You have the ability to say yes. You have the ability to pick up on nights or say, I'm not working any weekends. This gives you the ability to carve out the life that you want. Imagine if you're working in an unethical situation and you say, you know what, I don't vibe with this situation. When you have financial pressures on you, it forces you to the edges of compromise. So when you have a nice finalized freedom fund in place, or at least started your freedom fund, this gives you the ability to say, you know what, I don't agree with this. I prefer to walk away. I'll leave the contract as is. Give yourself the opportunity to say no, even if you might never use it. It's always nice to have it. This takes us to the final step. Step number 9. This is pay off low interest debt. See, on step number 3, we talked about paying off high interest debt. And that's key because you don't want to be building with one hand and tearing down with another hand. You don't want to be investing when you have 20% interest on a credit card. But we're not talking about that 20% interest on a credit card anymore. We're talking about things that are less than 8% in this step number 9. And the reason that this is the last step is because what I see too often are white coats rushing to pay off every single bit of debt and have no money saved up, have no money invested, and everything is going towards paying off debt. See, being a white coat, we have a different level of stress and a different level of risk associated with our career compared to others. Because you put so much into getting into your career, you might be having $300,000, $400,000 worth of debt. I've seen people upwards of $800,000 to $1 million in debt. If you're prioritizing paying off all that debt and it's sitting at 6% and you have nothing saved up, and God forbid somebody has a career-ending injury, that's going to put you in a very, very tough spot. So instead, you want to make sure you're working a good balance between, okay, I'm investing, I'm creating my sinking funds, I'm finalizing my freedom fund, and at the same time, working in the background, you're going to be paying all your minimums on anything that you owe that's below 8%. You're not paying extra yet. By the time you get to step 9, now you have the ability, okay, I have all my accounts fully funded. I'm on a monthly basis. They're getting automatically deposited. With the excess funds, what do I want to do with it? Now you can start taking big chunks out of your student loans that are below 8%. Now you can start thinking about paying off your 4% mortgage, 5% mortgage. At this step is when now you can start allocating resources towards things that are not necessarily urgent. But again, by the time you get to step 9, you already have your sinking fund. You already have your insurances in place. You're investing heavily. You're already investing in impact. And now you have excess funds sitting. And now you can attack whatever you feel that you don't like sleeping comfortably with. And as people start moving into retirement, it's actually a nice financial strategy to deleverage by reducing the amount of debt that you have, even if it's under 8%. That's when you can now minimize your mortgage, minimize your student debt, cut out the car payments, all those different things like that if they're below that 8% threshold. Now, make sure you're doing things in the proper time. I don't want you rushing to pay off debt before you have now put yourself into a strong financial position. Now, this is going to be a fun season of the Dr. Wealth Show, a personal finance show for doctors. I'm so excited to get into all these different steps, 1 through 9. We're going to have, again, the first part of the episode is focused on breaking down the topic. Part 2 of the episode, going through Q&As that we receive from doctors just like yourself who have questions on one of these 9 steps. If you have questions that you would like answered live on set, you can DM us on the information below or send us an email and we'll make sure we get your questions answered. I'm so excited to see you throughout this entire season. We'll see you on the next episode of Generational Dr. Wealth. See ya. Peace.
This show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be financial, legal, or medical advice. We are not acting as your personal financial advisors. The strategies discussed are general in nature and may not be appropriate for your individual situations. You should always consult your own qualified financial, tax, and legal professionals before making decisions about your money. The host and guests are not responsible for any actions you take based on the information shared on this show.